All right, welcome back to Cantina Chronicles. You're joining us today at the Officers Lounge and deep inside Mount Tantis. I'm Adam,
I'm Ben.
and unfortunately, Grant is still trying to sneak his way into Mount Tantis. We'll see if he infiltrates by the end. Today, we're going to talk about, as you could probably guess, we're going to talk about episode
14.
already forgot 14 of Bad Batch Flash Strike, as well as issues 1 through 5 of the Phase 3 High Republic
Nice, the
comic.
main run. Stoked
Yeah,
about those. We got a
yeah.
little something old, a little something new, little something
Mm-hmm.
Blaster scored, little something.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
yeah. I have a random bit of like
Oh,
news, which is something we had talked about, which I heard was confirmed, is that so this is completely, but we're all looking forward to the next big thing, the Acolyte, and we found out, and spoilers abound, and I apologize, don't worry, Ben, it's not going to like plot spoilers, but we had talked about whether or not we're going to see Vanessa Rose Light Whip, and confirmed we're going to see the
all
Light Whip.
right.
Yep. Yeah. It's Leslie Headland said like you can't
Right.
not do that. Like you can't not put that in the canon and not want to like show
Right.
that thing live.
Yeah, it's like
So
why
yeah.
even
Yeah.
cast Vernestra Rowe if you're not going to show the light whip. Like,
Right.
I mean, obviously she's an amazing Jedi for so many reasons, but it'd be like, I don't know, be like
Yeah.
RoboCop not
Right.
using his like hip blaster. Like,
Yeah.
of course you'd use it. You know.
Yeah, totally. And what I fear, I'm very excited, but what I fear is if anyone's out there is a like myself, a light Trekkie, Star Wars first, but I do enjoy my Star Trek is first. Did I say Star Wars first? Yes. I don't know. I'm tired, people. This is gonna be punchy.
Punchy Adam.
You're welcome. But yeah, fun. Season 1 of Next Generation, they introduced the Ferengi, which was supposed to be that was supposed to be their big bad, and the makeup and other stuff did not work out well, so it became a bit more of a comical
Sure.
people after a while. But they had their big weapon was a whip that shot out lasers at the end, so it's basically like a phaser, but it was a whip. And like every time I hear
Yeah.
light whip when I read those books, I just visualize the like 1991 or 1989 broadcast television
So
version
does
of a
that
light
give
whip.
you
So,
higher
uh-oh.
expectations for the light whip or lower? It sounds like lower.
I mean, I guess it's a low bar to clear, but it makes me a little nervous. That's the last time I've seen like a futuristic
Right.
whip
Right.
weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great news. That's really good. I mean, I did kind of expect it.
Hmm.
I hope we don't see it in a trailer or anything.
Same.
Yeah, I was rewatching.
Yeah.
I'm just so hungry for like Star Wars content lately. I've been like restarting Bad Batch and slowly seeing things. And they showed the Zygerians.
Mm-hmm.
They're like early. They had to steal a baby Rancor, Moshi. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, right. I do
Yeah,
remember
and
the
one
baby
of the
Rancor.
the
Yeah.
like
Who could
chief
forget?
slaver there had he has it's light whip like, and I was like that was just like oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
so
vaguely
it's like
familiar.
we've almost
Yeah.
kind of seen it, and that's sort of what I'm thinking about. But I don't think it's like, I don't know, a light whip is just, I mean, it's just a murder machine. It just like, I mean, if it just like really just
Yeah.
sizzles through everything it touches, like, and you can just like whip it around and like helicopter style, like it's gonna cause some problems.
Like yeah, it's a weird. It feels very non-Jedi like, but that's also Vanessa
Yeah.
Rowe in a lot of ways. Not to say she's non-Jedi, but she's like a non-traditional Jedi in a lot of good ways, I think. But like, I could just picture like we've seen dismemberment done with a
Yes.
regular laser sword, and like that's the thing. Like a whip, yeah. Like it's just gonna be like I don't know. It's gonna be like putting someone through a like rotator blade of a helicopter.
Right, and we
It's
just got
pretty.
done reading not Escape from Valo. Well, we did read Escape from Valo.
We did read Escape Valor.
Defy the Storm.
Defy the
thank
Storm?
you. And
don't know how
yeah,
I
good
pulled it,
one.
but yeah.
It's just there's something about the naming convention in High Republic. I'm never
Nope.
100% sure that I'm saying the book. I mean, any hoozle in
Yeah.
Defy the Storm, we see that Vernestra has sort of gone on this meditative journey for a while, and while she's there, she's practicing with the light whip. And she's, by the end of that book, she's very, very proficient with it. So here we are 100 years after that. I imagine she's going to be able to pretty much be a surgeon with that thing. So
Yeah, and we got to the point where she actually did reveal to the Jedi Council that she had the light whip, right? I think that was one of the plot points. Is
Yeah.
she did talk about. So that also, the second that happened, I'm like, oh, we're totally gonna see it because it's no longer a secret. Like you could easily write it that she just never revealed it, felt like it wasn't a Jedi's weapon, and just never used it again. But she told them, and they were kind of like, "That's weird,"
Yeah,
but okay.
she was like, "This is
Yeah.
happening," and Mace nodded slowly and was like, "That's how you do it, right there. You don't even ask forgiveness. Just let them know what's up."
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, Vernestra's great. I'm excited to talk about Keith Trennis too. I've missed all these people. I just signed up for. I'm actually subscribing to the Kindle like to releases now because I'm tired of being
Nice.
behind the eight ball. Like I want to.
Yeah.
I miss these stories when I don't see them. Like I love the High Republic.
Yeah.
I want to know. It's like you have these different cadres of characters that I'm all attached to at this point, and I want to keep up with it. And there's a lot, man. There's especially in High Republic Adventures. There's a couple of offshoots down there that are fun, and I'm like excited to get into those. I don't think I read the Phase 2 comics, so I just bought them all. I know you guys did, and I know we covered them, but I think they were just we were in a black hole of not being able to digitally download comics, and so I was just out.
It was rough. It's a kind of a weird moment with comics with digital. But yeah, I one of my favorite things is I similar to you, Ben. I subscribe digitally. I get them and read them as they come out. But I also, side note, I read every Marvel release every week.
As they come out,
all Batman, DC,
or as they come out on Unlimited.
Yeah. No, as they come out.
Is it $1 million? Do you spend $1 million?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
Yeah,
and
I feel bad
asking. But I will say that my money goes directly to Marvel in many ways that I feel. This is the criminologist me saying this is a techniques neutralization. But moving along. So I read. So the Star Wars comics come out along with another 15 releases, right? And so like it's all part of my intake, which I love. But like when you do that, you think about the fact that a comic comes out month to month. There's 4 weeks in a month. Like there's between like High Republic 1 and 2, I've read 60 other comics.
Yeah.
So it's just like I have to actually like really read the previously on scroll at the beginning. Of
You're like, what's
comic.
going on here? Okay.
And it still doesn't work. But so my favorite thing is like reading them as they're coming out, and then like when we're going to cover an arc, just sitting down and just reading like 5 comics in a row, because I've realized this has killed me for comics where I think all comics are bad. No. And I'm like, no, my brain is bad.
Yeah.
Comics are good because I'm reading them the way you're not really supposed to read them. Once you sit down and read an arc, like you watch a television show, it's brilliant. And so I was kind of like, whatever about this, we'll get to it this High Republic run, but I'm now like these first 5 issues. I'm like, yes, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah. When we get to this. So, okay. We'll stick
Yeah.
around because we're going to talk about High Republic comics. We're clearly stoked on that.
And yep, this is my exhaustion brain. The reason I said all that was not to talk about just me, but that we are going to slightly change up how we're covering comics to go back more to covering arcs as they finish
in real
up.
time. I think that makes more sense because I'm doing it close. Anyways. We're all up to speed. We'll all be up to speed on them.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. And the comics deserve their due. Not a lot of people cover them. So that's one of the differentiators of this podcast. Tell your friends.
Even on Wikipedia doesn't like to cover them. If you go on a Wikipedia page of a comic, they have like no plot summary, which is like wild.
It is wild, man. Yeah. And I think I've canceled Marvel Unlimited, though I'm still able to read comics. I don't know how that's working, but I've checked I'm just so sick. Like they make it so hard to read comics. It's so hard. Like I don't have a local place I can buy hard copies from, like on the regular to follow up.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's like a novelty thing. Comics, remember those? But it's like if you're really serious about reading them, it's like kind of difficult. You need like a local store. So someone please open a local store in Revere, Lynn, or Everett or something like that.
Okay, that's the thing. Let's make that clear. Like you live in a major market. It is wild to me that you don't have it. Like I live outside of Providence,
big city,
Rhode Island. And but here's the thing. I got like 2 comics within 10 minutes, 2 comic shops within 10 minutes driving distance of me. Like, and so like I don't know why Revere. Like, part of me is if I was looking for another
Yeah.
job, which who knows, maybe I am. Maybe I should just open up a comic shop in Revere.
This area has just been like an old Italian population that's just been getting older, and like now there's younger people coming in and younger families and stuff. But whatever. This isn't a North Shore podcast. It's just hard, and like Marvel Unlimited, I'm sick of.
Yeah,
it
like, is.
It's just like really. It's really difficult to know, and it's just tough to navigate.
Yeah. It's a clunky
and
app,
for like
$120
$120 a year, I'm like,
nuts.
that's a lot of comics to just buy straight up. So I did the math, and I'm just doing my thing.
It's gonna be cheaper for you. I still, on top of everything, I still do Marvel Limited because I am also rereading Marvel superhero comics chronologically, and I'm currently in July 1966.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're a busy
on.
boy.
I think I broke.
I'm like,
Ben's
how
brain.
do you find the time to do that? But
a couple comics a minute.
that sounds lovely.
That's why it's so
that
slow
sounds
going,
very civilized.
Yeah. It's very nice. Yeah.
Right on. Let's talk about the Bad Batch. Yeah.
Star Wars. Wait, can I just? I know we're
fine.
talking about Bad Batch. I just have to say, the time that Grant and I
Yes.
did our show together, the two biggest comic nerds, we talked about zero comics. I'm solo with Ben, and somehow I got like 5 minutes of comic talk.
Should we talk about Star Wars Unlimited while he's not here also?
Oh, yeah.
I found out he and our buddy Jonathan played like 3 hours of Unlimited this weekend. Jonathan, shout out to you if you're listening. I'll see you on Tuesday for the May the 4th Red Sox game. The Star Wars Red Sox game.
Yeah.
Excited to do that. I'll have some photos from that after Tuesday. I'll try and throw up on the old internet.
Please do.
But yeah, I don't know. I still haven't played Unlimited yet. I'm like, actually, I'm not the kind of guy that like feels like he's missing out on anything. But that game looks super fun, and everyone who's playing it is raving about it. So, sounds rad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll definitely have to get an update from Grant.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Welp. Shall we carry on to hyperspace on the way to Tantis here?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. The penultimate episode.
You beat me to penultimate.
Bad Batch. and everyone wants to go and say penultimate. Yeah.
Well done. No, that's good. That's good. I'm glad we're on the same page on that. First of all, loved this episode. So this is episode 14, the penultimate episode, as you said. Flash Strike is what it's called. I can't believe it's almost over. I can't believe that there's just one more episode. Like, is it going to be a long episode? Or?
Yeah. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? Because they don't. It's not going to be broadcast, so they can make it however long they want. So they don't never really say that. But like the fact that it's one episode shorter. This season's one episode shorter than the last two seasons. I have to assume it's going to be a 45-minute episode.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool.
And
I don't know. It doesn't have to be anything.
Yeah.
When I was rewatching the first episode they aired of the Bad Batch was like an hour and 20. It was like a feature episode, and I was like, yeah,
it was like a movie,
which is really cool. And I mean, I think that would be fun too. I'm always looking for more content, but the story's the story, and they're just going to tell it. So
it's odd. Like they could theoretically wrap up this plot line in 22 minutes, right? Like they could, because they're pretty close to where they need to be to get. If the ultimate goal is just to get Omega out, and you put like a 2-minute like post epilogue on that closes up, but like you also could do easily 120 minutes because there's so much ground to cover emotionally or character wise.
Right. So this story pretty much took the Batch. They're in hyperspace. They're coming to Tantis, shot down, and they're making their way to Omega at the same time that Omega is plotting her escape from within. So we're on Tantis. This is it. We want to rescue our hero.
Yeah.
We want to know what's going on in Project Necromancer. Maybe they'll tell us. Maybe Necromancer's Necromancer. There's a bunch of, young Palpatines in those vats, and that's all that it's just sort of like wink and nod. You know what's in there, but I'd kind of like to see something. Wouldn't you?
I know. I would love to see something. I think I've come to, and everything I've said, everything I've predicted is wrong. So I'm glad I'm about to say what I'm going to say because prove me wrong. I think I've come to accept that we're not going to get it, and the reasoning is this is deep Star Wars lore. They don't want to do it in Bad Batch, right? This is like Ahsoka season 2 level or Mandalorian Grogu that they're going to really dive into this, but prove me wrong, which maybe they will, because like again, the seventh season of Clone Wars did some pretty major like major canon stuff.
The
So they will do it in
sixth
in the
season did too.
cartoons.
It was a shortened season, but it was like Yoda communing with the Force before Qui-Gon was.
Mm-hmm.
And
right,
well, I guess he was the first to commune with Qui-Gon, and there was like, there was serious stuff going on in there. So remind me that the term Project Necromancer, was that introduced in Mandalorian, or did we get it in episode 9? Rise of Skywalker.
Oh god, I would have loved if we got that. That would have been such a great episode 9 drop to just put that lore bomb out there. Now it's Mandalorian. It was, which is good, which was like my favorite thing in season 3. They had the Empire shattered. No, what's not shattered Empire? They have a phrase for it. But all the remnant Empire, the remnant Empire. The Empire Remnants, something like that. They had all the people Skyping in, and that's where you get the Thrawn drop. And that's the same thing around the board table. You get a Thrawn drop as well as the Project Necromancer drop, because you get
right. Oh, so you're talking about that episode where they Skype in. It's all the warlords and interesting. So I guess it is a wee bit sacred. I was for Grant, because he's not here, I was thinking about him, like it would be cool, and we're way a cart before the horse here, talking about next week before we've talked about this week, but it would be really cool if they did show a like de-aged Palpatine in the vets, like just something to think about, like, oh, that's what he wanted to do, but over the next 30 years that didn't happen, probably because we assume Omega's they're not going to be able to reap the benefits of her blood.
They're not gonna be able to do it. And so they've had like a perfect Palpatine clone, but they can't get it Force sensitive, and the closest they can get is like the homunculus that is Snoke,
and then ultimately Palpatine.
We're gonna see Jimar Palpatine again live in person after 24 hours of Star Wars. I may just start laughing.
After being awake
in a good way,
for 24
in a good
hours.
way, like the triumphant laugh.
I'm gonna cheer like I've never cheered. I'm gonna weep.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna see the 24-hour run of all 9 Skywalker films in the theater this Friday and Saturday. So I don't even know how that's gonna work, but I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna buy some popcorn and we're gonna watch some Star Wars. So it's gonna be great. So super fun. So this episode, first like blush on this, it's just a perfect Star Wars. Like the tone to me is just perfect. It's just like that you're rushing through hyperspace. It takes them 5.5 minutes to land the ship, to like go through the it's like the sequence and the undocking, and then the word to the command center and the brooding Royce. I was so excited to drop his first name that I forgot his last. Hemlock. It was in the credits.
Hemlock.
He's usually just Dr. Hemlock, but he was like Dr. Royce Hemlock this week. And I was like, okay. Yeah,
good Star Wars name. Solid. Good Star Wars name. Yeah, Royce Hemlock. Yeah.
And it's like that, and then through it, and the adventure, and the droids, and the it was just, the tone is just like, it made me feel very happy for the future of Star Wars that Filoni's going to be making these movies, because he's rock solid. He knows how to make a Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah, it's very, very true. No, it was a good follow-up, because last week it's really funny. Like I feel like we've in some ways had 3 similar toned episodes in a row. And like the first one I was like totally out on. I can't remember what that one was. It was like my low point of the season. Still, I mean, it's still Star Wars, so I enjoyed it, but it's kind of like the most negative, I think, on
Juggernaut.
that episode where they got Juggernaut, where they got what's his name?
They stole Rampart out of the prison.
They stole Rampart. It was fine. It was not bad. It just didn't really do much for me. And then last week I really loved it. Felt like that, infiltrating the base, and then like to follow that up with like a second infiltrating the base episode, but like where everything goes wrong is kind of amazing, right? It's like I mean, not to make too much of an analogy of like, it's like Ocean's 11 followed by Ocean's 12. I think Ocean's 12 is a severely underrated film, because like I love the idea of just like, you think we're gonna give you the same movie, but in fact we're going to give you where everything goes wrong and they're behind the
Yeah.
eight ball the entire time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's great. Like, that is a great way to kind of follow that up, So I really, really love this episode. It really felt like, as you said, like kind of
Yeah.
key Star
And I
Wars.
think I got like, yes, absolutely. I think I got why their uniforms are all black too. I think they're trying to like maybe pass themselves off as those sort of shadow troopers a little bit, like first
Yeah, I
blush.
think you're
But I
right.
was like,
Yeah.
it's just great to get another fit there. Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, a lot of fun things happen with our crew here. Crosshair has officially changed, and we know this because he said he's changed. So,
Yes. Yeah.
so all right, so that's
Yep.
good. We know where
Mm-hmm.
Crosshair stands. Always a fave.
Yeah. It's hard not talk about the second to last episode and then talk about not think about what it all means
Yeah.
for the last episode. But like, I'm nervous. I'm worried for Crosshair.
Yeah.
Next week.
So
on Wednesday.
our
Yeah.
like principle that is like the more they show off the abilities of a single character, the more obvious or likely it is that they will die.
Yeah. And then Rampart has that kind of like had that conversation with, have you changed, and like,
Right.
are you willing to basically ask the question of like, are you willing to sacrifice yourself for someone else? And I'm like, I feel like that's going to get tested, and they may do a thing where he gets to the point of sacrificing himself, and there's Deus Ex Machina happens and
Yeah.
saves him in the
Yeah.
end anyway, right? But like, yeah, I think he's either gonna. I mean, it's Star Wars. Star Wars to me has a bit of a sacrifice play in it. Like most good Star Wars has a sacrifice play in it.
I mean, they already
And
had
so-
one really big one, last season
Yep.
with Tech. So,
Yeah.
yep,
It's true.
I mean,
It's true.
they could do it again, but it'd be a little, rhymey. But
Mhm. And Star Wars doesn't like to rhyme. It's not like it's
Yeah,
a
it's
tone
just
poem
like,
or anything.
This is our Bob. Yeah, but based on that physics principle, they've actually been showing off. I think all of them. I think this sort of like 3-episode lead up is like a fun, action packed romp leading to the end.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's just like, this is why you love these guys and why you love the show. Like Hunter flying the ship in that like stall maneuver where he flips it around. That was amazing. Right on the back of his sweet maneuver to latch onto the ship to go into hyperspace. That was a good flex by him. Echo's getting tons of hero moments here. He is the, 007 spy on the inside, making moves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wrecker, not as much. Poor Wrecker just got beat up by a space bear, but
Yeah, but like, it would feel weird to give Wrecker a character moment. If that means it's like giving Chewie a bit of a character moment, which I mean, I don't know, maybe you do, because like Chewie's best character moments to me are in the sequel trilogy. Like they actually give like my favorite part is in episode 9 when he realizes that all of his pets died.
Yeah.
Like that's the part that's the moment in Star Wars that I may cry the hardest. Is when, like,
Poor Chewie.
he's like, all my pets are gone now. But like with Wrecker, I feel like it would feel forced if you gave him anything. He's the lovable, I was gonna say gentle giant, but he's not gentle, but he is when he's not,
He's a
needing
soft,
to wreck
cuddly
shop
giant,
and like. Yeah, and he's comic relief, so it's like, he's fine. He's not going anywhere. But boy, they've been beating him up, like you said, this season.
He did have a great hero moment in that really fun episode, and I don't have it here, but the one he got to wrestle a space crocodile, and that was pretty cool.
Oh, right, I do remember that on the planet that Space Florida. Yeah,
we're getting lazy with our terminology here, but yeah.
Right. Well. Also, we miss Grant for many, many reasons, but he is the keeper of the lore of this podcast, where he will always have the pull. We don't. So apologies, but yeah.
Fun thing here. I mean, Emery recognizes Echo by his voice, which is like what?
Yeah,
but great. That was just like, how did she recognize Echo by his voice? Have they ever met?
I don't know. I mean, no, but she must. But she's working around. She's working with a lot of clones.
I think
right?
she saw his like hand gear and put 2 and 2 together.
Probably. But she's been like conducting like horrible tests on a ton of clones, right? So like, as much as like they all sound different, I mean, you can think about it from like if you're trying to like look at it from behind the scenes, they're all voiced
Yeah,
by the
D.
same
Bradley
person,
Baker.
right? So
Yeah.
they'll have a similar, yeah, they all have a similar tone. So that could be part of it. But like, I don't know. I like that.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, because it's also just another clear indication that she's swapped
Yeah.
alliances at this point,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
So, they've got that going for them. They being the kids in the vault. There's a Zillow beast there. This is call back to last season where they captured a baby Zillow beast, and now it is full grown.
Yeah. So I want to build off of that for a second because we stream live on YouTube and we often have a couple people join us. And last week, and I did not save the chat. I don't know if that's a thing you can even do. I never do. And I was falling down on my duties last week and I realized I didn't have the chat open. Or I know I had the chat open, but I was like also doing the Wikipedia thing. So I think I got
Yeah.
lost and forgot to check the chat. And someone, and I mean this is just someone, it wasn't Travis, it wasn't our usual group, it was someone else if
That
you're
was
listening right
Filoni.
now,
That was the
or if
one time
you,
Filoni watched our pod.
yes, or if like you hear this, sound off in the chat, or in the
Who you are,
comments,
yeah.
just let us know. Fully called this. Like fully said, wouldn't it be cool if they let the Zillow beast, if the Zillow beast is in Mount Tantis and they let it loose in the last episode, which I'm like, that's a good call. I mean, I kind of look at it like it makes sense. Like we know Filoni loves his Zillow Beast. It kind of
Sure.
shows up a lot with the Bad Batch. It's connected, but like part of me is just like, does this person have an inside line? It's just messing
Yeah.
with us,
For those of you that
right?
watched the
Yeah,
NFL draft this week, like I know, yep,
yeah,
Adam
that
did
was
that
one of
as
me.
well. Um,
Yeah,
they're like the reporters aren't allowed to like tip picks, but Mike
yep,
Reese, who is far and away the best Star Wars Patriots beat reporter, would drop
yeah,
these emojis, and he's like, "It's time to dial up the defense," and he has like phone emojis, and the pick was like Marcellus Dial, the cornerback, and like
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that, and so all weekend I
Mhm.
was getting little
It's like
drops like that.
it's enough. It's really funny. It's like enough
Yeah,
plausible deniability to be like, I'm not.
what a
What a
coincidence! Wow.
coincidence. I mean, dial up is a common
Yeah,
phrase. Like,
you can
yeah,
clearly see here, here, and here I did that. So I'm like, oh
yep,
gosh, it was like an animator. It was
yeah,
someone that I desperately want to impress with our
right.
Star Wars coverage and
I know. Yeah,
excitability, and we let that one slip. But
yeah. But whoever you are, sorry we didn't comment. I usually am better at that. And
good
good
job.
job. Like I wanna credit you now, even though I did not write your name down, so
Yeah,
I apologize. But like I know you did
yeah.
it. You have my credit.
John Favreau, 42069.
Right? Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool. So I guess that I didn't see that coming, though. I mean, we probably should have, because it's like you don't
no.
just throw a Zillow beast into Mount Tantis and expect to not see it again.
Yeah, I mean that is yeah. It really tells you where we're going
Yeah.
next
I
episode.
mean, so one of the other important things that they made sure we did not forget was that Echo kind of has his own agenda. And he is
Right.
like, he's going to free every clone. He is just that guy saving vets. Like, that's what he does. That's his mission, and that's what he believes in. And like, yes, Omega, sure, she's there, but she's really a fringe benefit to, gutting Mount Tannis and busting out all those clones for him. And so
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you're going to
Yeah.
free everybody, you got to free the Zillow Beast. That's part of the deal now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I have a looking forward
Sure.
question to you
I love this.
for next week. Do you think Mount Tantis makes it out of next episode? Meaning that like is it I guess I can ask the other way. Do you think Mount Tantis is going to be completely and utterly destroyed this week or next week?
My brain, my head says yes. My heart says it's a
Yeah.
spaceship and it's going to take off.
Oh my God, I love this. So you may have come up with the perfect solution to the problem that's in my brain, which is like, so it's the Mandalorian. I call it the Mandalorian
Yeah.
season 3 problem.
It's a little
Which
wordy.
is
We can
like
workshop that.
because yeah, the Mando S3 problem.
Sure.
No,
Mando
or the
conundrum. No, what's the?
yeah, it's also the well, I can't think of the big bad in the first three seasons of that.
Gideon.
It's the yeah, it's the Moff
Sure.
Gideon
The
conundrum.
Gideon paradox.
So the Gideon paradox. There we go. Done. So like, here's the thing. We know, and we talked about before. We know that we have to get to the point where Palpatine cannot clone a force sensitive body successfully, like of
Well,
himself. Like we know that, right?
I mean, he does though. It's not a pretty
He
version.
does. When?
I mean, Jibarm Palpatine
that
is,
that last.
unless you think
Yep, that has force. Yep,
unless
has a force.
Jibarm Palpatine is his corpse, and they're just reanimating his old corpse.
No, no, it is a clone. I think confirmed. So you're right, but like that can last, right? That seems to be like pretty decrepit from the part, and part of that just like, I mean, maybe it's headcanon, but it just seems like it's just the sheer force, pun intended, of Palpatine can keep that thing alive for however long it needs. But part of me also thinks like that's like the seventh time he's had the switch bodies. Like it just seems like those things deteriorate pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing: is like we know that like season 3, Moff Gideon gets to the point of like being able to like make looks like pretty perfect clones that are force sensitive. Like he just says
it wasn't quite
and then they blow up the entire
yet, right?
I thought he said they'd figure. I thought he had said he'd figured it out. Like these are like the one you see a tank of a Moff Gideon clone, and I think he pretty clearly says like, but this one comes with the Force. You know, not in that quite clunky of a way, but like
we'll have to go.
We'll have to go back and rewatch. So I'm not 100%.
My memory is that it was like, and very soon they will have Force abilities.
Okay. Maybe, yeah, but
yeah, they left it ambiguous a little bit.
They blow the whole thing up because you can't. Because then the question is like, so if they were that close, why 30 years later they didn't get there? And similar here with Mount Tantis, they are really, really close to the crack in the nut here. And this is now
we're throwing around 30 years. So, but that's not right. It's like 50 years.
Well, no. So 30 years from
Bad Batch,
season 3 of Mando, 50 years from Bad Batch, right? So like you have to also explain this technology has to go bye-bye because it makes no sense that wasn't there.
So that means that like Grogu's born like this season, pretty much.
Oh, that's wild too, right? Like maybe Grogu is the output of this whole thing.
No, because Grogu was saved by Keller and Beck.
Oh no. Right, and he's 50 at the beginning of Mando, which is 20 years after what's happened. 30 years.
So Grogu's like 20 right now. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he's 20 right now. Yeah, I know. Star Wars timelines are hard. So that's my thought of like why Tantis has to blow up. But I like this idea of like maybe it gets shot into space, it goes like into hyperspace and is lost, right? And so there's just like somewhere in the Star Wars galaxy, there's a Mount Tantis ship like lost in space, which is similar to like poor Grant, is similar to like the outbound flight stuff in that, which is like you also get like all those little ties into the Thrawn stuff as well.
That's interesting.
Maybe.
Or
I love that idea.
Ultimately land somewhere like, I don't know, eventually Dathomir, and that's why, I don't know. I mean, it seems like Thrawn just wants the witches because they can reincarnate people, and owes them, or he just happened to run into them on Peridia. But I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do with a movable Mount Tantis.
For sure. I love this.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but could be fun. And I think that's kind of everything I had there on that one. We mentioned Royce Hemlock, and so I think my work here is done.
Yeah, same. I don't.
I guess
that's all my notes.
Any other prognostications? I mean, we already kind of talked about the big question is: are we going to see what's in the Project Necromancer crashes? I mean, I'd love if we did, and it sort of gave us a little something else to think about. Yeah,
I hope so. And again, it's Star Wars, so I don't need everything spelled out, but just a little more. Like you said, just show a Palpatine in a tube, and that would be enough for me.
But it's like if it was a really young Palpatine, that could be a nice thing. And if Grant was here, he'd have 500 words of like some insane idea that would work
I'm sure.
so beautifully and
Yep.
add to the story and do all those things right now.
Yes.
But that's not me.
No, me either. I just want it kind of look
Yeah.
like Matt Smith. So we finally get like a Matt Smith reveal
Well,
that we were
and I mean, we
promised.
saw in
Yeah.
Rebels like a sort of a de-aged Palpatine, where he like when the way that he showed himself to Ezra Bridger was his young self, his like young senator self.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that like
Yeah.
they kind of look like that.
It's kind of wild we haven't gotten it. And Grant again is going to lose his mind when he's listening to this, but like we have not gotten a young Palpatine, like anything. Like that is such fertile ground, and to like just have like a British like person, like evil person, like it's kind of
Right.
amazing that no one's been like, let's do this. And I'm hoping the acolyte, I don't know what that means. The acolyte takes off because I feel like that will open the floodgates
Yeah.
for these more, playing around that timeline and also telling some darker stories.
I mean,
So,
yeah, like they could melt our brains if it's like Avar Chris, because it'll kind of look like an older Omega, like just blonde haired, like, Jedi. So I mean, like, do you want to speed round a couple ideas that aren't Palpatine for a second? Like, I mean, this is for Grant, right? He would say Avar Chris, would be exciting.
Yep.
And then the other easy one, well, actually, you go.
Yeah, so I think I said at the beginning of the season. So I think another one is just all the Jedi we saw in Amber, and
Obi-Wan.
and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, I think that kind of pulls everything together. So it's a good, but it'll also be like a good reveal, but also makes sense.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where they are before they get put in Amber later.
Yeah,
because they don't know what to do with
Yeah.
them. That would mean that those bodies successfully made it out of Tantis.
that's true. Yeah,
But that's exciting. Well, so this was. I did have one more question for you, and that is, where is Asajj Ventress, and should we care?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, that leads into my other question I had that I realized I had a question, which is the title of the next episode is "The Cavalry Has Arrived," but the Cavalry already. If we thought the Bad Batch was Cavalry, they're there. So they're not the Cavalry because they arrived.
They're on planet, but they're
episode.
not in the. They're not in the building.
Right. So is that the question to me? The question to you, back to you, is that Asajj Ventress, right? Is that Asajj Ventress is the Cavalry, right, or some other group?
I'm reaching back into like what her lines were just for this. Like I know, like her motivations right now are probably trying to find Quinlan Voss and maybe some sort of revenge against Palpatine, the Sith Lord.
Helps.
Yeah, or maybe just trying to help other Force wielders. Like she could be an anti-Inquisitor, like an Inquisitor hunter. That would be a sexy mission for her.
I love it. Yeah.
But I don't know like what really motivates her. I have to think she just like wants Quinlan Voss to disappear from all this madness. Like why? I don't think she wants to be involved anymore. And maybe she's not. Maybe she's just gone.
Maybe she's gone, right? I still do wonder if the next animated show is not Asajj Ventress. Like we talked about several episodes ago, but like the early formation of the path, right? Like I really do feel like that makes a lot of narrative sense, and it gives a lot of exploration, and it does not tie your hands as much as something like Bad Batch does, which I think is great. But Bad Batch had a limited shelf life because you only can do clones for so long before like how's this group of clones with like deep storytelling and cloning and all that stuff. So I wonder if there's that like maybe you kind of bring her in because she also does seem to have an attachment to Omega because everyone does. Yeah.
I mean, also it's like so this episode comes out Wednesday, so 3 days from now.
Yes.
And then 2 days or 3 days after that, Tales of the Jedi come out.
Yeah, on May the 4th, right, which is going to be a big announcement day and stuff, I'm sure.
And I'm just wondering if they don't sort of shake hands a little bit, if there's like maybe not Barriss Offee, but like someone in those things, Tales of the Empire. So I wonder if they sort of, if there's a little overlap there. That'd be a lot of synergy, and usually that much synergy handicaps your story writers, which you don't want to do for a finale. But yeah,
Yeah. It's more of a
yeah,
Marvel move in some ways, but at the same time, I mean, it's all Dave
yeah,
Filoni, right? So like it's not like it's
yeah.
trying
I
to
don't think
force in
Filoni does much on
synergy
those
between the
tales
acolyte
anymore.
and
Like that's pretty much like
no,
his proteges running. I think they're just cooking with
yeah,
those.
it is. But I also feel like he has kind of like
Yeah,
final say in some of those things, and probably is pretty much, especially now he's what chief
yeah. He's final
story
say on
officer. I can't
everything
remember his
technically.
title is, but like, yeah. So I would be surprised if he was just like, let's try to like tie this in. It'd be weird to me if we got all the way through Tales of the Empire without an announcement of what the next animated series
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
great. I mean, they're just churning these out. They've got the people. It's first quality entertainment. It's great filler in between like the live things to just scratch that Star Wars itch and keep it going. Yeah, it'd be great if there was another thing and like, there's a million, we don't need Grant here to know that like this era they're into right now is like really fertile ground for amazing
yeah,
Star Wars storytelling. Um, but I wouldn't
yeah.
hate
It's
if they
true.
jumped
Yep.
eras a little bit or did some different things. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately this show has to put a button on sort of the change of the guard from the clones to the conscripted stormtroopers, and that's a lot to do in one episode.
Yep.
I mean, I guess they've kind of been doing it for 3
It is.
seasons in a small way each week, but
We're kind of
yeah,
there if you think about it. Like we're kind of there. Like the clones are just done at this point. Like they've been putting them through the
yeah,
meat grinder for this season of just like trying to kill them off basically.
yeah,
So I think this might be the most we get. Other than it might be a good fertile ground for a book. Like a book would be a good thing
yeah.
to kind of explore this. Actually, the old Karen Travis Republic Commando books didn't do this, but like just bring
Yeah.
her back. Like again, talking about like old EU authors, bring her back to tell the story of like the final clone commandos, like literally the last ones. There's like tell that story of like there's
Yeah.
5 of them left. We're the only ones left, and we know we're trying to get killed off, but we're still like trying to do it, like trying to make our way
I
through. It
mean,
would be
yeah, I
kind of
mean that's
interesting.
very similar to Bad Batch in a lot of ways. I mean,
Yeah, but make them like true
oh
believers
yeah,
in a way. It'd be really interesting, right, to tell that story, and you can only do that in a book. It's easier
yeah.
doing a book
So
than
you mean
in
like
a
sort of from
show
the other
because you
side
can
of the
make a little more
lines, like they're
sympathy.
fighting for the Empire and yeah, sort of
Yeah,
come to the light.
yeah, and they and they start seeing the light and why they're
Yeah,
wrong, but they're like they know they're like it's almost like their honor is what's trying to
yeah.
keep them alive through the whole thing. The other thing I was gonna
'Cause
say,
I just want to actually speak to that
yeah, go
real
for it,
quick
please, because I
because
can't remember what I was gonna
the
say. Yeah.
my headcanon is that the last of the clone commandos are on Tantis. I mean, they kind of I feel
Yeah,
like they
I
like
think
didn't
they
see
are.
them and they started seeing them and then like they tailed them to Tantis. That was like the end of season 1, I think.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
that sounds
so
right.
like my headcanon is like this is where all the clone commandos are. And I mean, maybe we're to believe as far as the Empire is concerned, all the like clones that are alive are here.
Are on Tantis, and if
Yeah.
Tantis goes bye bye, that ends
Right.
the entire
Minus
thing. Yeah,
whatever
yeah, yeah,
clones
yeah.
escaped that are just flotsam
Mm-hmm.
and jetsam in the
Mm-hmm.
galaxy after the war for whatever reason, and then the ones that have banded together with Rex and Echo. But I mean, we know Rex ends up on a desert planet with 2 of his buddies fishing for chupas or something. So
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they kind of just all sort of
Yeah.
disappear into obscurity.
Yeah, post this era, we don't see the clones that we see are like either hiding or in obscure planets or begging on the streets.
Yeah, the
Right, we get the
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan like runs into the clone. So yeah, I think this is it. Like this is probably the last story of I think and like I mean we know I mean maybe we don't know but like it's a cartoon, so I think we know at least a majority of the Bad Batch plus Omega make it
Yeah.
off Tantis alive and free. I cannot imagine this thing ending in a down note.
Oof.
So we know they're somewhere too,
Yeah.
right? Like just probably on Pabu. Well, probably not on Pabu because I guess they know the Empire knows that's where they went
I
last
mean,
time.
I have to
So
say, I'm
I don't
so
know.
attached to these characters. I hope they do all live, and I hope they go someplace nice. And it's just nice to have them in their back pocket because if they ever showed up in a live action series, or if they ever just like showed up in another show, my heart would soar to see them again.
Yes. Yeah, I would love
So I don't
that.
know if they're
Yeah.
setting that up or if it will just be Oblivion. I mean, that would be a really dark way to end this.
I cannot imagine. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, yeah. I would. It's not what I want. I definitely do not want that because similar to you, I love these characters. But I would have like, I'd be like, wow, they did that.
Yeah.
It'd be like it'd be the equivalent of a Rogue
Right.
One ending, right? Where like I remember sitting in the theater going Rogue One, knowing like, oh, they're actually gonna do it. They're actually gonna kill every
Right.
single character that you fell in love with
Right.
over the
For
last
on
two
an
hours.
animated
That's
show that lasted
wild.
for 3 seasons that's
Yeah.
not for kids. Like, yeah,
No.
that'd
Yeah.
be wild. Um,
That would be wild. There's
yeah.
no way. But yeah. Yeah.
Right on, man. Why don't we go back 250 years from Bad
All right.
Batch
Do it.
to to the High Republic. We got another group, another cadre, reeling from the loss of Starlight Beacon. It's a year after Starlight Beacon fell, and we're catching up with this crew led by Keith Trennis, Carrot,
Yep.
and Sarat and Tarek,
Yep.
and a few other noobs, and
And
like
others.
some red
Yeah.
shirts.
Other red shirts. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess
amazing.
we're both
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit in favor of Star Trek. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so just some red shirts, and yeah, and I'm just excited to meet this group because the two heroes of this, actually Avar Chris was a big part of this, but she's sort of sliding into the main run adult novels more now, and
Yeah.
but we get Keith Trennis and her old master Skier, which we thought Skier perished on, sacrificed himself on Starlight Beacon to save them, but we're finding that a lot of these people have actually survived.
Yeah, like a shocking number of people that we thought has now I'm like, has anyone died? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of wild.
Kind
Yeah.
of wild, but it's great. Kiev is a baller. She's a really interesting character and a great, avatar for us to sort of go through this world. Sarat and Tarek are fascinating. I don't know. They are one mind, but but they're a little bit disjointed now, and so they're evolving based on trauma and all of that, and and then we're dealing with Hutt still, like we were in phase 1.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're only reading the books and you're wondering where all the huts are, they're in the comics. Come to the comics. Lots of huts. Lots of huts in like battle gear, riding rancors.
Yeah,
It's pretty sweet.
Man. I love these comics. It's also, we've now read 2 books in phase 3, the adult novel and the young adult novel, 3 including Escape from Valor, right? So we've heard about the occlusion zone. We've heard about these scav droids. We've heard about the Fallout, but we haven't really seen it. And I haven't included Adventures yet because I haven't read it. But High Republic Adventures, I think we had a short story in there that we read. But we'll be able to see it there as well, though their adventures are a little more away from the fold. But yeah, so it's just great to see them in this era. And we get an awesome cameo. Lorna D, who is no longer within the Hill, shows up as an enforcer for one of these huts. And it's great to see her.
I'm enjoying her in the comics. I think she's like the perfect comic character. I know I don't think she's been on any of our lists of like the best character in High Republic. I will say the name is not doing her any favors because I just think of like Lorna Doone every time I hear her. Like I just think of cookies.
Okay.
And it's interesting. And then there was that audio adventure.
Yeah.
That
audio very
book
good audiobook. Yeah.
that I think Kevin. I was a little lower on it. I think part of it was it was a really interesting experiment. That the part of it was, well, and here's the thing. I think it was more me than them because it's an audio. I've been listening to audio adventures, and it's like old time radio, which I used to love. Which is funny. When I was older, I used to have like old time radio on CD. I used to listen to it all the time. But like, you can't do any internal monologuing because it's all external, and so it's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of people saying things they wouldn't say naturally
Yeah.
to explain to the listener because you only have audio, which I'm like, I should respect this, but
But you don't.
it's clunky, but I don't, and it's not there's no it's not like I could fix it. I could not do it any better. I would just do it much, much worse. But like, anyway, so there was a whole thing that focused on Lauren D, and that kind of soured me on her a little bit because I wasn't deep into that. But I'm really enjoying her in this as kind of this like, I'm not in with the Nile, I'm not in with the Jedi for sure. I'm trying to get in with the Hutts, but I also just like straight up murdered a Hutt. Like I love the fact that like she's just constantly like just trying to, she's out for herself and is constantly getting the scrapes of just like how is she not dead is what I'm getting at. Is like I love that she keeps putting herself in positions that should end with her being killed.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, since we're being honest here, Tempest Breaker was the name of it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
she's kind of my Bylert Valance.
Yeah, I know she was. I was trying to get that out of you, and you're like, "No, it was a good one." I'm like,
well, no, but I did enjoy that audiobook more.
Yeah, it's not poorly written.
I liked it more than the Battle of Jedha. I thought the Battle of Jedha.
Oh, I forgot about the Jedha. Yeah, that
didn't do anything for me, and it should have been such a big deal.
That was the clunkier one exposition.
And I mean, some of the characters were cool, but it's like I don't know. I had the instantly getting thrust into a prequel was weird, and it was like, okay, now I've got a whole other cast of Jedi I need to like memorize, and so for that I like Sylvester Show, I'm like Corman Mack, like I'm trying to keep track of all of them, but that book would have been, that reference book would have been a lot pretty handy back then.
It would have been. But I will say this comic, as we'll get to in a little bit, is making you have to remember these guys again.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
So
a little
it's just kind of tough to like, especially for characters that you can't readily see, and it's just like they're just names, and it's it's like 100 Years of Solitude. They're all like names that look the same, and there's a million of them, and yeah.
I will also say, though, Tempest Runner, and I think the other one was written by Kevin Scott, who writes the comics, right? So he has a good voice. Like, his voice is great. I think to me, it was a limitation of the format, not any of the talent involved.
Yeah, personally. No, I really, I get that. But I did enjoy that audiobook. I remember where I was actually when I was listening to it. I think I was like driving to New York or Connecticut for a job, and I listened to most of it.
And just to, sorry, not to keep, as I'm doing my job, we will, at the end of this year, get a third one called Tempest Breaker by Kevin Scott.
Oh,
so we are getting another
that's
audio
the one
drama.
I just said was Tempest Breaker, because I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Oh, it's Tempest Runner is the first one.
Tempest Runner, Breaker. Yeah, okay. Breaker is the one at the end of this year. But it seems like a direct sequel. Like, it's very much Lorna D, Keith Trent and Avar Chris.
So this is her thing. So I just feel like, so Jedi die in the High Republic all the time. All the time. Just like cold deaths. Cold deaths. There's like animals that get slaughtered in front of you. Things that you are attached to die all the time.
Yeah.
None of the like main character Nihil die ever.
No. And there's so many of them, and they get into moments where, and I think I think they might be trying to say something of just like, because that's the difference between the Nihil and the Jedi. The Jedi don't take lives, right? Like, they just do this. But like, there's a moment in this comic series that we're talking about where, like, Keith Trent is one of my favorite moments. Like, allows herself to be like mind read to prove that Lorna D killed the Hutt's sister. But like, the second you reveal that to a Hutt, how is Lorna D like? To me, like, that was the moment of just like, yep, she should just be instantaneously
right. Well,
dead.
They did. There was the Hutt pulled her blaster and shot at her immediately, and missed.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And missed. That's my issue. It's just like, come on.
That's what I mean. Just like, okay.
But it's too many. So like, I enjoy it from the moment of just like, like it gets to the point of just like, it's almost comical in a good way, to where I'm like, that she has plot armor. She has the biggest amount of plot armor I've ever seen.
Plot armor on her Leku.
But just kind of enjoying just like how she Yeah, it's wild, but it's interesting. And then to the point of like, I do enjoy, so later in the series, in the 5 issues which we're covering, like the Jedi basically, like Avar Kriss and the not Avar Kriss, Keeve Trennis and the twins end up basically kidnapping her, taking her into the
Right.
occlusion zone. And like one of the twins, who I feel bad, I cannot
Tarek
keep them
is
separate.
the
I
one
cannot.
that's leaning dark side right now.
Okay, yeah. So like straight up, like does the
Yeah.
Kylo Ren like mind
Yes. Very
invasion
cool.
moment? Yeah,
And they're
which
like,
is,
whoa, whoa, whoa. They
yeah,
tackle
yeah.
him
I
and
love
be
that
like,
moment.
yeah,
We
that
do
we
not
don't
do
do
that.
that. And his
Yeah.
eyes are yellow. I'm going to have to look back to see. I thought they had the same color eyes, but
Hmm.
maybe they don't. I think Tarek has yellow eyes, which is usually dead giveaway. And then
Yep.
Sarah has blue eyes.
Oh, interesting. All right, I like it. Yep.
Anyways, yeah, trying to keep, it's hard enough keeping track of new characters without them being twins that talk the same, that are in
Yeah,
all the
right.
same frames.
All the same frames, and they gave one because of his interaction with the nameless. Like
Yeah.
has like the little like implant, but
Yeah.
still, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, really fun. I love where we find Skier, that he's like in an abandoned, like, just temple, like overrun temple, just like the monster in the middle of the forest. And yeah, I mean, we
Yep.
knew he was going to have issues, right? Like he has this like Trandoshan, like part of their natural like physiology makes them just like primal animals.
Yeah, and he had the degenerative
Yeah.
disease, which seems to have like a parallel to like a almost like a Alzheimer's type disorder for
Yeah, for Trandoshans. Yeah.
Trandoshans.
And he has
Yeah,
that, yeah, which where they can just like go down. And so the planet he's on, this is for Grant, is Kindosorn,
there you go.
which is wild name. And um, yeah, so he's in a bad place, but it makes sense. He's fully regenerated now too. I love a full strength skier. It was kind of funny when he had like baby arm skier.
I do miss Baby R Scare, but yeah, yep.
Yeah, we've got that there, and yeah, so that's resolved, and then the rest of the team, actually, which is great. They run into. I'm so glad that they animated this character. We haven't seen this Jedi Master since
Yeah.
Escape from Valo, or the disaster on
Right.
Valo.
I think disaster, because Escape of Valo
Yeah,
is now
that's
weirdly.
the right one. What's
Yeah, so it's
It's
disaster
not
on
called that.
something
It's not
Valo.
called
I
that. But
don't.
yeah, it's from phase one. It was
No,
when
I know.
they blew up the fair, World's Fair on Valo, really early in phase one,
Yep.
or middle of phase one. But there's this one Jedi Master who's just
Yep.
like a blob, and his name is
Yeah,
Orbalin, Archivist Orbalin, and
that's
we're
right.
seeing this blob wield a lightsaber, and I love this so
Yeah,
much for so many reasons.
me too. So before you get on it, it's either. See, this is why the naming convention will not help me. It's either Into the Dark, Out of the Shadows, or Midnight Horizon. Do you want to guess which one? I don't know. It's one of those three.
I
I'm gonna
think
say
it's
it's
Into
Midnight
the Dark.
Horizon. Or, well, Into the Dark is the
Oh,
first
so it's not
young
that.
adult
It's
novel,
a
and I think
novel.
the Valo. It's a novel. I thought it was it's Rising Storm,
Rising
maybe.
Storm.
It's either the Rising Storm. Okay, because like the Valo attack happens in the
Second
second
novel,
arc
yes,
of
second
the
major novel, right?
of the
Yeah,
three. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, sorry, continue. But yes,
yeah.
this character
we
is
spent a lot of time with him in
amazing.
that novel, Rising Storm,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, and I was just imagining him was great, and they even show what he looked like. There's like a flashback sequence to that him kicking Lorna D's butt, which was like the first time they faked her death, and then there's like another like 2 or 3 times where she should have been dead in like that audio drama, and then yeah, Tempest Runner. I think Tempest Runner picks up right after that, and she's like captured, and then with Avar Kriss.
That's
But
right. It
she
is her
ends up
kind of
making
escape.
off
Yeah.
with Avar Kriss's ship, and I'm like, no, these are Jedi. These are Jedi. Like,
Yep.
it's okay. It's okay. It's just like it's a formidable foe apparently. Yeah.
Apparently, I guess.
And there's
Yep.
another Jedi that I didn't recognize, Kerb Blom. That's what I'm going to call him.
Yeah.
But the
Is it
Yes.
Gunral Munchi?
Gunral Munchi. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, he's there too. So
Yeah.
it's just great to see some new Jedi there. But like seeing the animation of Orbilis, like it's just like just so cool. I love that. Yes, let's do non-bipedal aliens. Let's do weird physical property aliens. Like that's what we're here for.
I especially like to do the whole Star Trek thing again is like Star Wars has a bigger budget than Star Trek for the most part. And like Star Trek always just had to do humanoid aliens and you put some like weird makeup on them to make them slightly not exactly human, which I'm like, I get it. It's the limitations of the 60s and the 80s and whatever. And I appreciate that. But like Star Wars, like you enter the cantina and they're mostly humanoid, but there's some other weird type aliens in there. Like you have like the Thorians and you have like the hammerheads and all that stuff is just like, come on. Like now at this point, spend it. So I love it. And that's the same thing. Like even with even with the other Jedi, the fact that he was a Latero, which is like the Grease character from
Survivor.
The game Survivor. Like I'm like that's perfect. Like any of those like just weird humanoid, but like small and different, and so I appreciate that. But
Fun.
for sure. But I love the idea of just like a amorphous blob is a Jedi.
I think the most important part of this, and I'm sure I'll be proved wrong as I read ahead, but like they run into another new character that like instantly, I don't know if he kills or disables a nameless right in front of your face, like no problem.
Yes.
And the name is Tay Sirik.
So that is not a new character.
Wait, is he from he's from the Battle of Jedha. He's that guy.
Yep. He's phase 2. He's phase 2. He was one of the people like the archivist. No, what would they call them? What was Keeper of the Wills? Yeah. He was a Keeper of the Wills, right? He was the guy who was training as a Keeper of the Wills, or left the order.
Yeah,
he was a thief. He ended up befriending the other Jedi, the main Jedi in the comic series that had Comac. So he's still alive, and he has the claw that he got, that like dark side claw thing that he uses to kill it. That's the thing that he got outside of I think he got it in the statue. As that toppled, like in the Jedi stop, the Jedi statue. So
okay.
I mean, which makes sense again, because he's a Cavan Scott creation, right? So it makes sense that he's tying it. And one of my somewhat biggest complaints about Phase 2, which I actually really liked Phase 2, like the characters, like some of the characters in the main adult novels, I really enjoyed, but like the two main characters in the adult novels were humanoids or humans, and I'm like, they are clearly. Like you get the son of the
Chancellor.
Why can't I think of the name? Chancellor, which I love that character. I thought it was a great character. Ends up in prison, completely reformed, and I'm like, and he's dead. Because like when you go to say Phase 3, like he doesn't survive. So I appreciate the fact that we have some longer lived species, perhaps that like could still come into play.
Yeah,
in
it's
Phase
nice
3.
to see them.
Yeah,
at least a little crossover, other than Yariel Poof and Yoda.
Yeah. As of right now, 6 issues of the comic have dropped, but we're covering the first 5 because it's the exact midpoint. And it is, I would say it's a good kind of like clear, like Skier is now
back in the fold. Yeah.
Cured. Back in the fold. So it's a good kind of like, it makes sense to cover it as opposed to like waiting till all 10 come out. Have you read issue 6? Okay. We'll talk about that afterwards, but you're going to see some more connection to Phase 2. Let's put it that way. So there's a little more drawing into that, a little more backstory about like what happened to.
Well, so I've seen the cover, and it's a young version of Tay Sirik. So
so we get a little more like post Phase 2, what happens between him and Cormac, or whatever, which is like some juicy stuff in there. Let's say
that sounds fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I intentionally was
Yeah.
like, I don't want that rattling around in my brain. I need to just focus on the story.
I
And yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. That's the way to do it because I just want to like tell it all right now, but
right.
we'll talk later.
Yeah, no, excited to read that one, and maybe I'll do it when I go to bed tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Yeah.
I mean, so the reason why this character was exciting to me, not from the callback, obviously, but was that like
Yep.
maybe he has a
Yep.
way to neutralize, like, because clearly the Jedi are too just inept to like figure out to just like bring a team with you that's non-force sensitive.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly. Which they have with them. They
yes,
have with them in the first 3 issues of this comic where I'm like,
just
bring
bring them
them
with you.
with
They're like,
you.
okay, if it happens, then the Jedi hangs back and you
Yeah.
go hunt a thing, and it's like you figure out weapons
Yeah.
that can neutralize it. A clear, like, I don't know if that's the
They're
thing.
killable. We see
Yeah,
them killed.
I mean, Sarek
they're not
crashed a
invincible.
Jedi fighter into one and killed it one.
Yep.
But yeah, but I mean, I think when there's a book on the horizon called and that's already like the name of
Or
the High Republic book. It's the
something-
Tears of the Nameless.
Tears of the Nameless. That's what it's called. Yeah.
And
I mean, they're clearly going to figure it out, but it's a little.
Yeah.
It's taking a little too long for my liking, which might be my overall feeling in some ways of the High Republic, which I thoroughly enjoy and like really glad they're doing it. But like, it is a huge endeavor, and with having nine main series books in every phase,
yeah,
2 main comic runs plus miniseries comics plus an audio novel plus I'm forgetting other stuff,
it's an
which is
avalanche
good.
of content. Yeah.
It is, and because of that, and you have like a point A to point B that you have to get to. You've got to slow play it a little bit, and sometimes that slow playing is a little like I don't mind that as we talked about on the air. Like I love boring television. Like boring television is some of my favorite stuff. Like long conversations, I will like watch. I love it.
Right.
Like give me Who's Afraid. I'll watch Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf any day of the week, and that's just 4 people in a room talking for an hour and a half. It's great. But
Yeah.
when it comes at what starts to feel like ineptitude or people who aren't inept, I start to get a little annoyed.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the opposite of inept. I mean, especially since in Phase 2, they actually made more inroads towards defeating the Nameless than they did in Phase 1. And,
right? What happened?
And I mean, time's relative, and you're right. This is a lot of content, and we're essentially like hitting rewind every time we go to a new cadre because it's like covering the same time frame at the same time as other
it's
stories.
True. However, it's been a year since they've fully acknowledged the Nameless exist and they know what the Nameless can do. Yeah. It's been a year. Yeah. They say that at the beginning of everything you read. It's been a year. That is too long.
Right.
Because we figured it out in like a day of reading this. We're like, okay, so Jedi, it only affects Jedi. The Jedi work with a lot of non-force sensitive people. Maybe give them guns.
Yeah, and then kill them. But I mean, so I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
Please, that's what we do here. Yeah.
If you're the Jedi, killing things that scare you is not the answer.
Okay.
And
and so that even may not come to them even as a solution, right? Is like we're not trying to destroy them. They're a species. They don't know, which I think they say a little bit, right? Of like they're not evil. They don't know what they're doing. And they've been tortured and experimented on, which I think the Jedi have mentioned. So all right. Okay,
I mean they're kept hungry, like I mean that's why I think they're going to explore more on Tears of the Nameless, or at least I hope they do. It's like what are the real motivations of these creatures? And I think that's what Reith Silas is tasked with looking into right now.
Yeah.
And another big Reith Silas fan. I love that dude too. But and so I think they're trying to like it's like, okay, well they're affecting us within the Force, and we try to understand the Force. Why don't we just try and understand what's going on here so we can properly address it?
Maybe we can solve the problem, not kill the problem. Right. Yeah.
But it's
like, okay,
so you bring a horde of non-force users with stun weapons.
Right. Or at least a bunch of them that when, I don't know, our Jedi start convulsing, they can like at least pick them up and run them back into the ship and fly away.
Right.
As opposed to like letting them get turned into stone.
Right.
Like there's got to be some middle ground here. Yeah. But yeah, no, I like that explanation quite a bit. And that does track that. I can make that my headcanon comfortably.
All right. Well, if we've done nothing else here today.
There we go. But to get back to that, why can't the guy's name that is slipping out of my mind? The one they reintroduced,
Tay Sarek.
Tay Sarek. Yes, thank you. That is a dark side, um, artifact.
Yeah.
Now, is it now? Now I'm trying to get everything confused. Is it a dark? Yeah, it is dark side. Now it's starting to go to Doctor Afro. Let's not do that. Which I love Doctor Afro, but I'm like,
Right.
that does not attach to this timeline. But yes, it's a dark side artifact, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So it makes sense too, right? Because it's one of the things I think Grant or has talked about, or we've talked about that. Like, what do we know that this? We know it eats the Force, but like, what does it feel about Darkseid? Like, how's Darkseid react to it?
Yeah. They've been sort of dropping these little hints that maybe it doesn't affect Darkseid users as much, and that's also, I mean, they again, I'm forgetting his name, and Grant knows it right now and is screaming at us. But the person that Reese Silas is talking to at the end of the last book, you might know him as well, and his name is
No, it has the goggles, burns his eyes
that
out.
Dude, he is, being has been recruited by Yoda, but like fell to the dark side and did some dark side stuff, and like they're looking to him for answers. So why are they looking to him for that?
But like, and did it in service to the Jedi. Like he made like a decision to go dark to figure out how to defeat the Nameless. Like I love that character, that idea of not like I went dark because I was greedy, but like I made a utilitarian decision to go dark to save everyone else. It's so interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's very much like trying to, but it's like, I love that because it's not like Anakin who went dark to save his wife, which is like good, I get it. But like, no, I tried to go dark to save everyone. It's interesting. Yeah. It's a really good way to do it.
So anyways, I'm excited to see some inroads here. Like they're just giving us breadcrumbs, but I'll take breadcrumbs as long as it's inching, the plot forward towards defeating the Nameless. Like it is so slow played that it's going to be so cathartic when they defeat the Nihil and defeat the Nameless. Like it's going to feel really good when that happens. Assuming,
totally.
I mean, it does. So.
It has to,
and I'm looking really forward to that. But I mean, there are also, I think there's 5 High Republic adventures out right now, and there are the first 2 of the Hidden Blade, which is like the continued adventures of Ty York, from Monsters of Temple Peak fame.
There's a couple other, there's that, and there's another standalone, like or single issue, a one shot. I was to get my comic terminology. A one shot. There's like Crash Landing, maybe. I think it's like High Republic Adventures Crash Landing, which we could do. So there's definitely stuff like we're gonna hit. Like I mean, clearly, like the High Republic is working for whatever metrics they're using, because this phase they've greatly expanded the number of comics series they're doing and other stuff. So like they would only do that if people are buying the first 2. So that's great.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. Is this the new model? Will they take another time period and recruit a new crop of, writers? I'd love for them to like do that with some like expanded universe writers like Lucino and John Jackson Miller and Karen Travis, and like I'd love to see them just like cook on it.
I agreed, and I kind of love the idea of like, let's just pick a time period and tell like a just giant space opera story, right? Like just go I don't know, 500 years in the past, right? Or or I mean, we've already talked about go in the distant future. They're not, I don't think they're going to do that, but like just give them something, right? Like I love that. It is the closest thing to the old EU. That's what I really love about the High Republic, is it just reminds me of old EU story stuff that they're like, we are free to do a lot of things here, which is great.
Rad, man. Anything else you wanted to talk about here? I think I got everything I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's everything. We just got next week we're gonna cover the
finale.
Bad Batch series finale. That'll be probably the one and only thing we'll talk about. That'll give us enough to talk about for sure. And then I don't know, keep an eye out for little drops of either on the Instagram or maybe some vid bits or something else for May the 4th marathon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big week.
About that. Yeah.
because May the 4th is obviously on Saturday. It's this week. May the Force be with you all. In anticipation of that, I don't know how you're going to celebrate, but do something fun for yourself. You deserve it. And start and nerdy and Star Warsy. It should be really cool. I've never properly celebrated a May the 4th, so I'm excited to do it this year. Me
either. Yeah, this is kind of the first one.
And
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we're doing that. And yeah, it should be great. So this week we'll talk mainly about the Bad Batch finale, and we'll see how that goes. And I guess it depends when we record the pod, really.
We'll talk off air about
and
that.
And then Tales of the Jedi is going to be there too. So, that might need its own episode.
Probably. I did realize I'm trying to figure out when we watch that May the 4th, but there are like breaks in between movies, and I'm like, you probably could, if you bring your iPad with you, probably watch it in between the movies. Watch an episode of
Tales of the Jedi. That'd be so die hard. They'll be like, over in this theater you can watch Tales of the Empire for an hour.
Oh, that'd be so smart. Yeah, we're just gonna like put them on there. You can run into the other. Like we'll just show them in between the movies. That'd be amazing.
Them,
yeah.
So,
for sure. Yeah.
All right, man. We missed you, Grant. Looking forward to talking with you next week. Looking forward to watching a lot of Star Wars movies with you. And Adam, this has been a blast, man. Been fun hanging out.
It's been super fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. We will talk to you next week on another edition of
Cantina Chronicles. Cantina Chronicles.